What's up, guys? This is your friend Manoj Poptani. I welcome you all on behalf of the Edupedia world. It's been an exciting day till now. Everything's perfect, beautiful, just like your smiling faces around. Perfect, guys. So, in this video presentation, I'm going to start a very new and a very fresh chapter with you guys, and that will be the Sarbanes Oxley Act 2002. We are fond of calling it as SOX Act, popularly known among students. So usually students say, hey, did you read SOX? Did you read stocks? So that's what SOX actually mean. That's the complete name, the Sarbanes Oxley Act 2002. Now many people usually ask me up, so this thing about this topic, sir, what is so fascinating about this topic? So I must tell you that necessity is the mother of all inventions, like as always I say. So this basic act was also due to that necessity, and the necessity was due to some of the scandals that happened in US. So there came a point wherein this act was came into practice, okay, and it was passed by the government of USA. Why? Because they need to have some kind of stoppage or something with relation to the scandal part. Okay, so that's why this came into the picture. This act, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act 2002. So before starting that up, so are you like guys revising your topics time and again, as usual? Perfect, guys. You guys have become smart now. Perfect. So do revise your topics time and again. So that will help you in clearing your CA final attempt like in one go, and you won't be able to flunk during that amount of time. So perfect. Fasten up your seatbelts. We are about to take off with the first topic of this, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act 2002, and that will be, what is Sarbanes-Oxley Act 2002 all about? So like as usual, as always, first thing comes first. So there has been a reason as to why this act was demanded by the people around. So what was the major motive behind it? Any act comes with a motive. Okay, so let's understand that motive first. In order to make you understand the kind of conceptual clarity with each and every topic, you need to understand your first base, and that will be to understand the introduction of this thing. So that will be this. So there used to be way back in 2002 that there used to be this the Public Company Accounting Reform and Investor Protection Act of 2002. So now it is commonly known as the SOX Act, or I should say the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Okay, but earlier it used to be this, the Public Company Accounting Reform and Investor Protection Act. So that was quite a big name. So usually people call it as this by this name. So that's SOX. Okay. So it was basically a story of USA. It is basically a US based story wherein this act was passed by United States federal law. And why it was being passed by? Because there have been like n number of major corporate and accounting scandals which happened. Okay, and it affected many of the companies, the entire economy of US. Be it Enron, be it Tyco International, be it WorldCom, all these were the major scandals that happened. So there used to be a company way back. The name was Arthur Andersen. Now the company has like merged with one of the big fours. Okay, so that came into the like bad picture due to these frauds. Okay, because they were the auditors back then. So all this have like resulted in a decline of public trust in accounting and reporting practices. People and the stakeholder like tend to think about this thing. Are we like really believe the kind of facts and the kind of figures which are being shown in the accounting and the reporting practices and documents? And people were like astonished to see that we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't have that public trust in any of the things. So then came this thing into the picture wherein government was actually forced to think on this side whether a person should be like capable of to like actually believe these facts or not. So then came this Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and this new act established a new and an enhanced kind of standards for all the US public company boards, management and public accounting firms. So that is the importance of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act 2002. This act plays a pivotal role in the globalized environment of financial reporting, auditing, and corporate governance. So this is something which we are going to study in this particular act. I hope I gave you the best kind of introduction to make you aware and keep you engaged with the kind of thing which we are going to study in this. This was about the first thing first, the Sarbanes Oxley Act 2002. Now let's move to another major important topic for this particular segment. The major provisions for Sarbanes Oxley Act 2002. This question has been like n number of times asked in CA final examination for the past few attempts. So CA final November 2008, November 2009 and November 2011. So 10, 11 as well. So what all are the major provisions with respect to the Sarbanes Oxley Act? PCAOB. What's a simple stuff name? So PCAOB simply stands for this Public Company Accounting Overside Board. So we'll understand something about that. Auditor independence is another provision which has been covered in Sarbanes Oxley Act. Corporate responsibility, financial disclosure, conflict of interest, Security Exchange Commission's resources and authority, studies and reports, corporate and criminal fraud accountability, white collar crime, corporate tax reforms, and corporate fraud and accountability. Out of these complete provision, like almost all the provisions were being asked in CA final examination from November 2008, 9 and 10. And for a few attempts, corporate responsibility was directly and specifically asked in the examination for CA final November 2011. Corporate and criminal fraud accountability was asked in CA final examination for November 2010, and this white collar crime was again asked in CA final examination for November 2010. So you can just by watching out this number of attempts, you can just understand the kind of importance this question will place for you during your examination pattern. So let's understand these major provisions one after the other so that I can give you the perfect kind of clarity for your utmost benefit. Let's start with PCAOB first of all. So guys, this Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, what is this? This is basically a kind of an independent private board, okay, or quasi public agency. I'll say it's a kind of mix. So why it has come into the picture over here? So their main purpose is to regulate the accounting profession, and this will include the executives and experts from outside that profession of accounts as well. So this is something about PCAOB, okay, and their main work is to regulate the accounting profession. PCAOB basically aims at establishing the public confidence in the report of an independent registered public accounting firm so that they can protect the interest of investors, the stakeholders. PCAOB requires the public accounting firms to register with the board and to follow certain regulations for the audit of public companies. So that's their main work. So that's all about PCAOB. Okay, moving on to the auditor independence. So guys, auditor of public companies are majorly required to follow a few things. So they are required to follow the regulatory authorities, be it Securities Exchange Board, be it any other entity. Okay, Securities Exchange Board is the one which has been entrusted to issue the rules implementing several provisions of the Sarbanes Oxley Act. So it is their responsibility. Auditors of public company are also required to comply with these rules and regulations which are being imposed by PCAOB. And again, auditors of the public company are required to enhance the rights, duties and responsibilities of the audit committee itself. So this is something which is required out of the auditors. The auditors' independence, including their outright bans on certain type of work of audit clients or pre-certification of the company's auditing committee or any other stuff. So auditing independence will also be covered over here. Employee protections. If I'll talk about employee protection, allowing those corporate fraud whistleblowers who file the complaints with, there is a entity which is being based out in USA, that's OSHA. So within the period of 90 days to win the reinstatement, payback, benefits, compensatory damages and congressional page abatement orders at a reasonable attorney fees. So they need to file that within the 90 days. So that is something which will be covered under auditors' independence. They need to follow their regulatory authorities. They need to comply with the rules and regulations which have been like fixed by PCAOB. They need to enhance their rights, duties, and responsibilities of the audit committee. They need to take care of the auditor independence, and they need to take care of the employee protection as well. So that's something relating to auditors' independence. Now let's move to the third segment, that is the corporate responsibility. This is something which has been like already asked in one of the CA final examinations specifically. So that was CA final examination for November 2011. So what this corporate responsibility has in their platter to offer to you guys. So let's understand it one after the other. So the audit committee, guys, should be a very much more independent kind of an entity, okay, through the enhancement of their oversight and supervisory responsibilities. One of the audit committee members shall be the financial expert. The audit committee shall oversee the relationship between the company and its auditor. It is their responsibility. If I talk about CEO of the company or CFO of the company, they should certify quarterly financial results and annual reports to the Securities Exchange Commission as part of compliance with securities law. Now you guys must be thinking about, sir, what does this SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, do? So it's as simple as that. We have in our country as SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India. In US, that's Security Exchange Commission. So who is having the same and the parallel kind of roles as to what SEBI in India has to offer. So that's something there. So that's their SEBI in a sense, I can say. So accordingly, again, there is a corporate responsibility that the rules of the conduct regarding the pension matters which are specified are to be followed by the company's management and their officers. SEC rules require attorneys to report violation of the specific security laws to the company's CEO and the chief legal counsel, or to the audit committee as well if no action is actually taken. And believe me, most personal loans to executive officers and directors will be prohibited and banned in this case. Insider trading during pension fund blackout periods shall be prohibited, and there should be a mechanism for prompt reporting of any insider trading. So that's something related to corporate responsibility. So which is the thing which is expected out of the students to write in the examination. Next will be the financial disclosure. So what all disclosures are required to be mandatorily made? So this will be covered under this. So guys, there are a few financial disclosures which are absolutely mandatory. Disclosure of the financial results, including of the balance sheet transactions, is an objective and transparent matter. So that is something which is extremely important. Disclosure of the financial results. And if I'll talk about disclosure for having the established effectiveness of the internal control system for the financial reporting and disclosures, that is even extremely important. Third, disclosure of the corporate mission statement, corporate ethics and their implementation. That will also be considered into a disclosure which is financial in nature. And disclosure by the chief executive officer, directors, management of the company, principal stockholders on matters which involve the company's securities. Even that is a disclosure which will be included under the category of financial disclosure. So these were the common examples for that which I did give to you. Moving on to the conflict of interest. Okay. So guys, declaration of rules by the Securities Exchange Commission to address the conflicts of interest that arise when the security analyst recommend the executive securities buying and selling in their research report and announcement to the public. So there might happen some of the conflict of interest. Let's suppose there is a situation. I am a research analyst. Okay. I am saying in my report that this particular stock is good for you and this particular stock is not good for you. Don't you think that is going to affect your judgment as a stakeholder or a normal newspaper person who is regularly reading up the newspaper and getting the information from that? So that is going to create a conflict of your interest over there. So this thing will be covered under conflict of interest. Moving on to SEC's resources and authority. So what will be the SEC's resource and authority in that matter? So number one, to provide the additional funding to Securities Exchange Commission. That is number one. Number two, to provide power to Securities Exchange Commission and federal courts to censure and impose prohibitions on persons and corporate entities in case of non-compliance with the law. So this is something which is under the authority of Securities Exchange Commission. They can provide additional funding and they can take care of the power with respect to any of the censor and the imposement of the uh, prohibitions on persons and corporate entities in case there is some non-compliance with the law. Moving on to studies and reports. So the federal regulatory bodies shall conduct the studies regarding accounting firms, credit rating agencies, violation of laws, rules and regulations by various agencies concerning the corporate affairs and action involving the security laws. So this is something which will be covered under the kind of study that you'll be doing and the kind of reports that you'll be relying upon, be it from a accounting firm, be it the report of credit rating agency, be it about any of the violation of laws. All this will be covered under this studies and reports. Moving on to corporate and criminal fraud accountability. So guys, this question was primarily specifically asked in CE final examination for November 2010. So what is corporate and criminal fraud accountability all about? So they have some of the things under their consideration. One, to enforce tougher civil and criminal penalties for fraud and accounting scandals which are being done, the securities fraud, violation of securities laws, and certain other form of obstruction of justice. So they need to have stringent punishments, absolute stringent. Next, to protect the employer company against any of the corporate whistleblowers. So to all those who don't know what does a whistleblower actually mean, so a whistleblower is basically a person who provides evidence of fraud in a company, or some kind of fraud or some kind of misalignment of mismanagement going on in any kind of country as well. So there has been many of the cases wherein the country's leaks were being provided by one of the whistleblowers. So it's been like numerous cases have been like already being shown in the history. So that is something with relation to that. So to protect the employer company against any of the corporate whistleblowers. Next, to protect the employees, allowing the corporate fraud whistleblowers who file complaints within 90 days. There might be a case wherein the employee is not guilty, actually he is genuine, okay, but some of the legal provisions and their non-compliance has resulted in him being a victim or an accused in that case. So he will be allowed to file the complaint within 90 days to win the reinstatement and pay back and get the benefits and compensatory damages, whichever will happen. So this is something for the good of the employee. Okay. Next will be the white collar crime. So this is again this question has been like asked in CE final examination for November 2010 specifically. So white collar crime, what does white collar crime? So there are two types of collar. Okay, if I would have been a labor, I would have been a normal workforce, I would have been like categorized under the category of blue collar. Okay, blue collar workers are those who do manual jobs. Okay, the labor jobs, the physical jobs. White collar persons are the persons who are working with the corporates, just using their laptops and getting the things done. So the corporate kind of a guy, the CA firm kind of a guy, all of us are being considered under white collar jobs. So white collar crime, by what I do mean with white collar crime, the kind of crime which is being done by the employees. Okay, by the persons who have been entrusted with the kind of responsibility with the relation to white collar. So that's something white collar crimes. So by white collar crime, I simply mean that they need to enforce tougher penalties on CEOs who have been like guilty of wrongdoing and other fraud. That is, for example, like mail or wire fraud or any of the violation. So they need to impose and enforce some tougher penalties, number one. Second, they need to impose the penalties for certifying a misleading and a fraudulent report under the securities law by any of the CEO or CFO. So they need to have stringent white collar crime, imprisonment and penalties. The next, corporate tax reforms. So the CEO of the company, the chief executive officer, shall sign the company's federal tax returns. He is the person who is being responsible to do so. And lastly, the corporate fraud and accountability. So guys, regulatory bodies and courts shall take various actions like civil and criminal proceedings in connection with the misstatements amounting to the accounting scandals and fraudulent financial reports. Other frauds on security matters, obstruction of justice, retaliating against corporate whistleblowers, all this will be covered under corporate fraud and accountability. I'm sure that you guys got the complete clarity with respect to each and every aspect of the provisions of the Sarbanes Oxley Act 2002, be it PCAOB, be it auditor independence, be it about corporate responsibility, financial disclosure, conflict of interest, SEC resources and authority, studies and reports, corporate and criminal fraud accountability, white collar crime, corporate tax reform, and then finally corporate fraud and accountability. With this, let's move to the next topic, and that will be with relation to COSO and COBIT. So what does COSO and COBIT actually stand for? Let's understand that. So there have been like many of the accounting associations, okay, in US. So they actually came together and formed a group. This group was known as COSO. By COSO, it stands for Committee of Sponsoring Organizations. And who all were those 5 organizations? That was number 1, the Financial Executives International. That was the number 1. Number 2, American Institute of Public Accountants. Number 3, American Accounting Association. Number 4, the Institute of Internal Auditors. And number 5, the Institute of Management Accountants. These 5 accounting organizations formed a group which was known as COSO, and their main job was to provide the guidance on evaluating the internal control. Provide a guidance on evaluating the internal control. This is called as COSO Internal Control Framework. Basically, with this perspective, this COSO was came into the picture thing. Next is COBIT. So what does COBIT stands for? So obviously, the Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. COBIT. It is a set of best practices framework for the IT management, which was created by the IT Information Systems Audit and Control Association, ISACA, and the IT Governance Institute, that is ITGI, in 1996. So that's a story like way back. Okay. So what does COBIT usually do? Basically, COBIT provides managers, auditors, IT users with a set of some generally accepted measures, indicators and processes, and some of the best practices to assist them in maximizing the benefits derived through the use of IT and developing the appropriate IT governance and control in a company. COBIT basically focuses on the IT processes along with COSO's control kind of activities and information and communication. And that's something which is being related to COBIT. This will also be covered in 2 of your subjects, not just in this particular advanced auditing I'm talking about. So there is a subject of yours, that's ISCA, Information System Control Auditing. There also you'll find these 2 things, and the same will be covered over there as well. What is COSO and what is COBIT? So you got the additional benefit of like analyzing the same thing here itself. So the next time you'll be studying the same thing in one of your books in ISCA, definitely you'll be able to understand these things in a better manner. So you are already aware of it now. So COSO was being incorporated by 5 major accounting associations in one form, that was COSO, and its main work is to provide guidance on evaluating the internal control. Whereas in case of COBIT, its main job is to provide the managers and auditors and IT users with a set of some best of the practices to assist them in maximizing the benefits derived through the use of IT. So that's the basic difference between the 2. I hope I was able to make you clear with the kind of concepts relating to COSO as well as COBIT. Perfect, guys. Let's move towards the last topic of the day, that will be use of COSO framework in achieving the objectives of SOX Act. The SOX Act basically. So it's more like what kind of framework this COSO framework will be helpful. What's the benefit of COSO framework or applying the COSO framework in achievement of the objectives of the SOX Act? So we need to understand that. So what's about the COSO framework first of all? So guys, it is basically a recognized kind of methodology of SOX compliance, which describes 5 control components that are necessary to achieve the sound business objectives. They have their brief idea, okay? So they have like described 5 of the control components that are pretty much necessary to achieve some of the business objectives. Thus under the COSO, for an internal kind of control to operate effectively, there have been like 5 components. Number 1, risk assessment. Number 2, control activities. Number 3, employee job rotation. Number 4, monitoring. And number 5, information and communication. Let's understand all these points one by one so that I can provide you the complete clarity with respect to this. Number one, risk assessment. So guys, before making any of the necessary controls are being implemented, the IT management team must assess and understand the areas of risk, first of all, which can affect the completeness and validity of the financial reports. They must examine how the company systems are being used and the current level of accuracy with respect to existing documentation. The areas of risk drive the definition of the other four components of the COSO framework itself. So this would be the first and the foremost thing which needs to be done, that is the risk assessment. Moving on to the control activities. So the basic control areas identified by the COSO framework are three: independence, audit trail, and documentation. How about independence? So it takes care of the design, implementation, and quality assurance testing teams should be independent. They say simply, because you are going to take care of the IT issue over there, so that team should be independent. That shouldn't be working with the bias of other people around. Okay. Number two, audit trail. So ERP and other IT systems collect the data but feed into manual spreadsheets which are prone to human error. So the organization will need the document usage rules and create an audit trail for each system that contributes the financial information. Number three is the documentation. Control activity number three, documentation. So written policies should be defined, which define the specifications, business requirements, and other documentation which is expected out of each of the project. So that is something which will be covered under the control activities, be it independence, be it audit trail, be it documentation. Next is about employee job rotation. So by employee job rotation, I simply mean that you need to shift your employees from one place to another time to time so that they can have the interest in their work, plus you'll be able to provide them some kind of good learning. So an environment in which the employees take the ownership for the success of their projects will encourage them to escalate the issues and concerns and feel that their time and efforts will contribute to the success of their organization. And it's a must, guys. You need to understand that employee satisfaction is extremely important. So this is basically the foundation on which the IT organization will thrive. Employees should have that sufficient job rotations across designing, implementation, quality assurance, and deployment teams to understand better the kind of entire technology life cycle in a better manner. So it's extremely important. So that's all about something related to employee job rotation. And if I'll talk about monitoring, so the audit processes and schedules should be developed to address the high risk areas within the IT organization. The IT personnel should perform the frequent internal audits. In addition, the personnel from outside the IT organization shall also perform audits on the schedule that is appropriate to the level of risk. Management should clearly understand and be held responsible for the outcome of these audits. It is their responsibility to get the work done. Okay, so that's something about monitoring. And finally, the concluding of this part will happen with the information communication. So without timely and accurate information, it will be very difficult for the IT management team to proactively identify and address the areas of risk. They will be unable to react to the issues as they occur. IT management must demonstrate the company management an understanding of what needs to be done in order to comply with SOX. So that should be a kind of a right which needs to be given to the persons around in terms of IT. So that is something related to COSO framework, and that is something how it will be useful in achieving the objectives of SOX Act. Be it risk assessment, be it control activity, be it any employee job rotation, be it any monitoring, or be it any information or communication. That framework is going to achieve the objective of SOX Act. I'm sure that I was able to provide you the 100% kind of a good clarity. So cheers to that. And if in case you liked our video, do give us a good thumbs up and do write to us for that matter. I'll be concluding my video with a dose of motivation, and that will be: happiness is not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement and in the thrill of creating effort. This quote was being mentioned by one of the finest presidents America has ever witnessed, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So it's absolutely right. There have been many people who think that possessing the money with themselves is equivalent to having happiness, but that's not the case. It lies in some sense of that achievement, the joy of getting that achievement done, and in a thrill of creating a new effort. That's where happiness lies. There have been many of the people who are like earning huge amounts of money, huge chunks of money, but they are just doing their regular job and they are not satisfied with the work. Why? Because they are just focusing on the money thing. So they are not focusing on their happiness. And this actually lies in the sheer pleasure of enjoying the kind of achievement that you exercise and the kind of thrill of making an extra creative effort. That is something which will help you sail through your entire life, but not money. Get that straight. Perfect, guys. I'll say thank you on behalf of the Edupedia world. Keep interacting via questions, queries, and YouTube boxes. I'll love to clear each and every kind of grievance or query that you have. So do write to us. Stay connected. That will help us in understanding your needs way better.